We here at Life and Lore have been shocked and appalled by the militarized authoritarian actions of law enforcement and the federal government in these recent months. We want to help all we can in these times of social change and believe all Black lives matter. We'll be sharing links with resources you wonderful folks listening can use to lend your support or educate yourselves and read up on what's been happening around the world, in your community, and in society. Be sure to stay informed, stay vigilant, stay plugged in. Now, let's get back in the bunker.
Open up that bunker, baby. Let all of those smooth particles come into our bunker. This is Life More, the podcast where we have a whole lot to say about nothing. We are transmitting from our bunker in the... Oh, God, it's already started.
Ray Charles is out.
with the Ray Charles has escaped his cryo chamber. I will be your host for the evening. We are transmitting almost live, as live as we can be, from our bunker in the middle of the Southern California wasteland. I am your host for the evening, Justin, and to my left, in space and time, is my own flesh and blood.
It's your boy. It's Jason. What's up? Coming from you live from the other corner of the bunker. Right now, I have a blanket that my grandma made over my legs because while it is warm in this room, I still like the weight of blankets on me. It's great. Highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Hope you guys are doing well out there, staying safe. To my left is in the digital space, but also surely in the bunker next to me, whom I could see, probably Paul.
It's most likely to be your boy, Paul, Salad Titties.
Well, on my screen, it's Dr. Manhattan, so I can only assume.
Oh, that's me. That is me. Heck yeah. All right. Yeah, it's me. I'm Paul. Yeah, no, literally left on screen also is...
It's your token female girl.
Yeah, Chrissy's back. Let's get that up.
Better than ever. Oh my goodness.
You can find me at Courtesy of Chrissy on everything. I'm here in my corner of the bunker on my tin can connected to a string.
A toilet.
Connected to all four of you guys.
Oh my god, that would be such a good idea. We should try that. Like, isn't that what electric wires are for? Like, it's just I thought telephone poles, that's what the concept was. I really thought that as a child, and I still do.
Telephone poles are just giant cans with strings on them.
Just giant tin cans. We've never evolved past the tin can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this episode. Today, we'll be talking about the topics of beauty and art, rapturous feelings when it comes to viewing something that evokes some kind of extreme emotion in somebody. Today's topic will be, and we'll probably offshoot like we normally do. I mean, I'm going to say that we're starting on this topic, but God knows where it's going to go. But we're going to be discussing something known as the Stendhal Syndrome. And we'll be getting into what that is and kind of what it means to all of us as it goes down. So would y'all like just a brief rundown of what the Stenhall Syndrome is?
Yeah,
go for it.
Give it to them.
Explain it like I am 5 years old.
They are stupid fools that know nothing. That's why they're listening.
Y'all
to us.
are in the and by they, we're talking about Justin, the host. So the Stendhal Syndrome. I will read you this very nice blurb on it. The Stendhal Syndrome is a psychosomatic picture that manifests itself in the person. I don't like how this is written at all. I'm going to say it in my own words. So this
I'm going to take your own narrative, basically.
All right, it's my turn.
Yeah.
This doctor's definition.
Bullshit.
All right, WebMD
transiently, when they observe works of art of great beauty, it was not conceived as such until the 1979 by the psychiatrist Graciela Magarini. It can be defined as a psychosomatic process that causes things such as high heart rate, dizziness, or even in some cases hallucinations when a person is overwhelmed by viewing something of great beauty or interacting in some instance in which they recognize something as beautiful. that's the overall definition of what Stendhal Syndrome is. So you view something, and you are
You go fucking
encompassed by
crazy.
this. Yeah, you're either to that extent, or you're just enraptured by its beauty. You feel some kind of uh, ecstasy from looking at something beautiful.
Ecstasy. So it's like Pitbull. He's just like, go look. Oh wait, it's not Pitbull, but he's like, go
Yeah.
loco, go wild,
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just go crazy, go
go
stupid.
stupid.
Ah.
Get stupid.
Listening to house music in the club at 3 a.m.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so essentially it is as you gaze upon something beautiful, you experience some form of reaction to it in some hard way. So the
Crazy
first
people.
case of the Stendhal Syndrome comes from a French novelist known as Henri Marie Bailey. Bayle, Beyle, French name. I don't know how it's actually pronounced, but they went
Silent. It's just B.
It's just
I thought it was
Henri Marie
go.
B.
Go with yeah.
Girl
But he's the first diagnosis with it.
He described the Stendhal Syndrome. So the Stendhal Syndrome, down the road, its first description in a novelization was by this French author in 1817. He went under the pseudonym Stendhal as like a pen name. The book in which he was describing this in is a travel book in which he traveled from Rome to Naples to Florence. It was essentially just taking in the beauty and sights of these ancient structures in Italy, and was overcome by these feelings, which would come later down the road, more than 100 years later, as the Stendhal Syndrome. He published it in the book. This is my favorite part of this article, and what I wanted to share with y'all. It's called Naples and Florence, a trip from Milan to Reggio. And then there's 2 question marks.
He was so pronounced that. Maybe I was there. Who knows?
It seems that this person was also sampling some of the delicious wine in
Oh,
Italy,
okay.
because he does not remember
Let me
where he
let me just sip some wine and where the fuck am I?
Yeah.
Maybe?
I've been there.
Oh shit!
I've been there.
Go again.
And mushrooms.
No, exactly. It was wine laced with mushrooms.
Bruh, he was-
and so he was walking around Italy.
He was from
Tripping his
Germany.
balls. Stendhal or Henri Marie Bell described it in this way. I was in a kind of, as a quote, I was in a kind of ecstasy of the idea of being in Florence, near the great men whose tombs I had seen, absorbed in the contemplation of sublime beauty. ... I reached the point where one encounters celestial sensations. Everything spoke so vividly to my soul. Oh, if I could forget. He had heart palpitations, which in Berlin they called nerves. Life sprang from me. I walked with the fear of falling. So literally, he was so just overcome by the beauty that he was surrounded by that he began to feel faint and like he could pass out.
That's magnificent, though.
This dude was just real excited. He was just hyped to be in this
He
place.
was pumping.
It's
He
sounds just-
dehydrated.
Yeah,
Probably.
probably drinking too much wine and not enough water, because people in 1800s definitely didn't drink water. They drank alcohol in lieu of water.
They're just like, hey, wake up in the morning, drink a lukewarm beer, and that's
Feeling like
But this
eating
was
and
like-
drinking.
This was talked about all the way up until the 1970s. You were saying,
Mhm.
correct? Is when it was like
Yeah, that's when an Italian smart lady was like, "This is what it is."
right.
Yeah, and so it became more of an actual. It became used to describe the feelings one gets of these similar things
As a diagnosis, right?
in similar situations, as a diagnosis, looking upon specifically things of great beauty.
Interesting. So it went from a euphoric experience to a concern in the medical field of like, oh shit, this is a psychological happening that we need to look into.
yeah, because so that was my question. Do you guys experience this? Do you think you
Absolutely. I have a whole story.
syndrome?
Absolutely.
I'll just go last. Like I have a whole thing about it.
Yeah, I love that question, Chrissy, and that is yeah, I would love to hear y'all extrapolate. Please do extrapolate upon.
Pass the torch to somebody.
We'll start with the life aspect in the personal experiences of Stendhal syndrome. Chrissy, I will, as the question, would you would you mind going first?
Why I was asking you guys because I feel like I haven't experienced
Interesting.
this before, or I just don't experience this effect.
Well,
Mhm.
Because obviously, if it's a syndrome, that means some people experience it and some people don't.
True.
I obviously I feel like I've experienced like thoroughly enjoying art. Like I'll cry from like the tone of a French horn or like the certain pitch that a woman
absolutely.
will
Oh
hit.
yes, the tenor
Like
voice.
that'll give me the chills. But I don't know if I've ever like looked at a scenery so beautiful or like
So it's
anything like that where I felt lighthearted.
like more of a
You know, like or like I was faint.
right. For you, it's more of a like auditory, like it's music, right? It's music and appreciation and adoration. But when was the last time you felt so heightened? It maybe not has maybe it didn't lead to a revolutionary like that's a breakthrough like this epiphany of existentialism, but
But I think that's what the syndrome
exactly,
is.
yeah.
It's like you feel extremely like you feel
Uh,
extreme for something.
Let me see, including but not. I have a list of things you may experience during
Oh,
the
run the
if you
diagnosis. Yeah,
experience this.
yeah.
Let's see here. So,
With
perceptual disorders, especially in terms of sounds and colors, you could get anxiety states, feeling depressed, states of euphoria, confusion, disorientation. There's one that just says sweat.
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 I am.
I've been known to sweat.
Me all the
I
time.
literally am like
I am just always going through the syndrome.
It's constantly sweating.
this is
Everything is so beautiful.
exactly everything is beautiful. I'm just like that's my secret, doctor. I'm always sweaty.
Let's see.
It's sweaty.
Persistent dissociation states, amnesia, fear of losing control and doing damage to works of art. Holy fuck.
Make me lose control. It's like this song.
Sounds like
Music
Alex
makes me lose
Stinko to
control.
Shortness of breath, feelings of guilt, omnipotent thought. So things of this nature, anything on that spectrum of things, if you
I
felt
get
that.
that then. I understand the ad with art, you know. Like that's the trigger emotion that I go to with art.
Mhm.
But
So-
I've never like gotten so excited or happy from art.
Interesting. So it's never gone beyond that. And honestly, it's not like a flex to have this syndrome because it's terrifying. It is
Low
not
key.
something
Like,
you
really?
want to experience, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, Chrissy. I don't think I've experienced this effect to full. Not to say that like I
You get
don't.
inside.
Pretty much, yeah. Not to say like I don't experience excitement or like I don't get hyped for something because I was doing a bit of other tab research while you guys were talking about this. Frisson is a very a similar word to what I would equate this to that I've experienced. Frisson is defined as a sort of emotional excitement or a sudden surge of excitement. And that can happen definitely. Like me and my partner, we were watching Infinity War and then followed by Endgame right after.
Ooh, I remember that little
And-
quest.
Yeah, and then spoilers for Endgame if you haven't seen that somehow and you don't pay $7 a month for Disney Plus or mooch off of your friend.
Hey,
and haven't
here I
seen
am.
The moment where Captain America picks up Mjolnir and then he's just fighting Thanos, and it's just like
Oh,
it's
man.
so hype, man, because it's earned. It's over, like a decade of movies of caring about these characters, and that gives me frisson, like that surge of like, oh
Mhm.
my god, like I can't believe that as fans we get to see this moment that we were looking forward to.
Yes.
But I can't say that it made me, like sweat or it made me feel
like palms sweaty, knees
like
weak,
I
arms
had to
spaghetti.
punch my TV because I was so excited. You ever seen those like videos of like people watching sports or like Super Bowl or stuff like that, and then their team will score and then they punch the TV and break it? Like that sounds like a version of Stendhal.
I was literally reading a book about that called Mastery of Self, and this Toltec tribesman leader was talking about passion and how people could get so absorbed in their passions they
Mhm.
fall into literally the Stenhall Syndrome, and that's part of my readings and research into the syndrome where they will commit acts of murder just for someone wearing the wrong sports team, and because they're so involved and invested in this sports and watching it and being part of the culture that they take it to the extremities. I'm like, damn, I don't think I'd kill someone over Endgame. Like,
Frisson, Frisson.
Thing though, like when you put it in that aspect, it makes me think of people that have like killed over like baseball cards or like
yeah.
Pokemon cards. That's interesting.
Like,
Are there
you just said
Pokemon
that really
fans?
quick.
Are there
You're like,
Pokemon fans killing out there?
baseball cards are like ancient. They're like more than 100 years old now, and you're like, and Pokemon cards.
Chrissy has also murdered someone for a
I'm
Pokemon
searching
card.
right now.
But,
Has
like,
there
the way
been
you put
deaths
that-
due to Pokemon cards?
It's just like I understand seeing now. I couldn't think of it in an art aspect, or
Right.
even like when I thought like how just Jason was saying with the movies, it feels very literal, and that's what I kept thinking, like movies and books, and I was like, but it
Absolutely.
makes me feel a way because it's written out, to make me feel that way. They want me to feel that way,
They want you.
but
Systematically.
They've controlled you.
if you look at a painting, it's like up to your perspective, and I was like, I don't feel that way. I don't get intense feelings for painting,
Mhm.
but I do get intense feelings for gear. Like if I see really nice photo gear or like
yeah.
guitars, I do get like a very passionate, like, like I want it,
But that's like
I just want to
internalized.
touch it.
Like that's like a material object, like a tangible, but like these are like emotions where it's like
Cool. Yeah, I
further than
feel
that.
like
Yeah.
Do you get sweaty?
And those things are also,
Yeah.
like an extension and by themselves art. Like there are the creation of a
Exactly.
guitar in itself is an art form. The creation of high end gear and things like that in itself is one could possibly consider that an art form as well. So by that, an extension of the Stendhal Syndrome itself, taken hold over.
I'm glad you put it that way, Paul.
I know it's like beyond art, but we have such a different perception of art because the definition of art and everything about art that surrounds art is very subjective because people believe dancing
Yeah.
is an art form and it's a visual art form. Yet some other people think that's a workout. That's yeah, you're making me do yoga, man. It's like no.
True.
And sports and gambling, everything like that. I'm not saying sports and gambling, as in sports, comma gambling, comma whatever you think is an art. Even
Sports
debates,
gambling.
sports gambling. But even people even believe communication is an art, and I believe it's an art. Communication, journalism, writing.
Yeah.
There's so many. The art spectrum is so broad that it's perhaps our perception is so narrow, and we need to expand and be like, yo, art and this syndrome can be involved in so many different ways in so many different cases.
Could not agree more. I also had a question, well, or to extend the Stendhal Syndrome, because the feeling in which I experienced it, I think, through the research I was doing and looking back on memories, was through nature and being somewhere where nature, like, literally brought me to my knees, and by just observing it and being around an area that was just so beautiful that, I mean, it's ingrained in my brain for so long.
Oh.
So I'll extend that to y'all as well, because my stepdad also, when I was talking to my parents about this episode, my stepdad brought that up as well. He asked, "Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be just art?" And then all y'all bringing up the fact, like the interpretation of what is art. Welcome to Life and Lore, the
Yeah,
philosophical
like,
podcast in which
is
we
art?
ask, "What is art?"
And that is so true because even though it's visual, it's like, well, if your memory and what you saw was captured in a photograph or perhaps a painting or a different form of visualization, then that would be
Mhm.
considered art, and it would bring that same feelings that go with it, that weight.
And I distinctly remember when I was in a couple years ago. God, was this only a year ago? This was only a year ago. That's crazy. This was only a little bit. A little bit more than a year ago.
Mhm.
I was in Washington on a hike to a place called Rattlesnake Ledge, which is in North Bend, Washington. On this hike, I was spending. I was going on up the mountain, and the entirety of the hike was super pretty. It was this very beautiful, like green forested area. There was this little lake with a big old tree growing out of the middle of it. It was surreal to say the least. But the best part was finally reaching the top after about maybe 2 hours of hiking. My girlfriend at the time and I were hiking and talking the whole time, and we finally got to the top, and then both of us just like we're very talkative people in general. But then by the time we got to the top, we were just sitting there looking out over the vista opens up. You see the lake with the little tree under you, and then directly ahead, on top of this ledge, you can see just spanning for miles in every direction, just large forests. There is no sign of man made structures or anything like that. It opens up directly to the north in this huge valley that causes that. You know, like when you look at something that's too far away, your eyes start adjusting to it. It starts doing that like whoa, 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 whoa thing.
Right. Yeah.
And it just just seeing that large, massive expanse, and knowing that for probably one of the first times in my life, I was actually away from any kind of. I mean, there were other people around us, but away from any kind of like man-made structures or any kind of influence of people. This was all just like untamed nature, and it really had that uh, that effect. I just couldn't take my eyes off it. I didn't want to come down, but we were just super hungry and wanted to go get pho.
Like I need some, I need some fun for that, and that's like almost like it shifted you into different time of maybe like Earth of you said there's no man-made structures or nothing that signifies that we've even corrupted the environment around us, and that it's almost like you were set in a different time and structure of when Earth was and where your reality was. Almost like you entered a wormhole into like a perfect world, you know, a perfect environment.
It was definitely one of those times, and I realize I take for granted sometimes the times in your life when you are doing an activity that makes you completely forget time, the passage of time, uh,
Right.
your responsibilities, anything like that, and you're just so wholly within a moment, just like
Right. Just taking
and
it
Yeah.
in, just absorbing. Yeah.
that does not happen all too often, unless it does happen to some people very often.
If that is, that would be
Might I
tantalizing.
completely? Might I also? So, Jason, you were looking up the number of deaths caused by Pokemon cards. I'm sorry to sidetrack so harshly, but I was my DuckDuckGo auto corrected it to the number of deaths due to Pokemon Go, and holy God, there's an
Irresponsible
article that
goey.
said, "Did Pokemon Go really kill 250 people in
Holy
Dragon
shit, dude! Dude, it's a murder machine. It is a complex in itself. It is an
Remember when
industry.
Pokemon Go
It is
came out
the
and people
virus.
started catching Pokemon and driving? Because I thought that was a good
Bro,
idea.
literally. I mean, they had to say like sit in the passenger seat. Are you not driving? I'm like, dang.
People are real dumb sometimes. Like the Snapchat filter that
Oh,
showed
right.
your speed.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
like,
fucking stupid too.
we know how fast you're going. You better not. You better stop.
Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely.
But were there any other examples in which the Stendhal Syndrome through any medium has affected any of you personally?
Absolutely. Are you guys ready for a long one?
Let me pour my wine.
All right. Yeah, I was like, y'all got to get ready for this because I go through it all. Ooh, because I just like answered the questions you sent, the questions that you were trying to infer to. So I'm like, all right, let me just hit them all in this essay. The history of the Stendhal syndrome truly fascinates me, and definitely the first diagnosis in 1917 was I think it was 1917 or 1970. Right?
Like when they finally had the name Stendhal Syndrome, it was 1979.
So in 1979, when it was officially diagnosed and branded as the Stendhal syndrome, throughout history, in the mid 18th century, there were numerous publications of inspiring works by novelists, right, and writers from every country. This is usually referred to as like the Romantic era. And one of those authors was Goethe, later known by, like as we mentioned, his pen name, Stendhal. and he earned his spurs in Napoleon's entourage.
E-boy.
Not Napoleon Dynamite from Jared Hess's 2004 art house film, but I'm talking about Napoleon Bonaparte, who failed miserably in his saga of campaigns to invade Russia just to freeze his toes off and starve. Like, bruh, Stenhall, he liked to pepper his French with angelicisms or phrases that are, peculiar to British people. Like, I always think of Cockney phrases like bruv or love or
Love
you
Cockney.
Cockney. Like, he literally just
Which
sprinkled it up.
apparently every American in 2020 has a slight Cockney accent
Honest,
now,
bruh,
or at least attempts to.
I would like you guys to give me a sentence in your best Cockney accent. Go for it right now.
Oh wait, no, hold on. What is it? Oh, let me remember. So the only Cockney slang that I actually know is like, let's go have a butcher's, bruv.
What the fuck is a
So-
butcher's?
A butcher's. See, a lot of Cockney rhyming slangs have to do with rhyming, and obviously they're called home.
Oh yeah.
I just said that sillily, but they rhyme with something. So butcher's is butcher's hook, which means go have a look.
Oh
Go
God!
have a butcher's.
Just say look.
means go have a butcher's hook, which means go have a look.
Like, Cockney people are the most pretentious people without earning the pretension to their character. But Jason, what's your Cockney accent? What's your Cockney sentence? Go to.
404, sentence not found.
Come on. All right.
DNS error,
18th
try again
Jason.
later.
Chrissy, what's your... Give me a Cockney.
It's all gone wrong.
you just say something disappointing to me. Well, with these with these phrases, he literally, one in particular was the word tourist in French. So this dude invented the word tourist or tourism or the concept of visiting places and being a tourist, being in that space, so absorbed in a
Like,
space,
just to enjoy it.
just to enjoy it and then fastly move on and just to enjoy the resources. In a way, it was almost not to the point of appropriation or colonization, but to definitely use the sources up and get the fuck out of there. And in one of his visits to Italy in 1817, Stendhal described an experience that brought the literary swoon into tourism. While visiting the Santa Croce, he pulled up to a monk and he was totally cool with him. Just like the monk was like, yeah, dude, come in. And he went to a genuflecting stool. You know, the ones that are like really low, but you could kind of like pray on it. But you could also like tilt your head back and look up. So he sat on one of those stools and tilted his head up. And he took in the prospect of Volturno's fresco of the Sibyllis without interruption. Just uninterrupted, completely quiet, completely in his own space. And he said the pleasure was keen. He was in ecstasy, and he had reached the point of emotion where the heavenly sensation of the fine arts met passionate feeling. He had, like we said, palpitations, and the life went out of him as he had sensations comparable to astral projection. That is amazing to feel that.
Thing called again. I want to see
This
it.
is crazy. So he was looking at the ceilings of paintings of Sibyllis. So Sibyllis are Greek. I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe they're Greek, like goddesses or demigods or people that were worshipped in Greek mythology that were. So sorry, the
Great.
oracle. So you see, the first image is like a kind of like a profound painting of all these angelic figures. So he just like took that in and he felt so moved that it evoked more than emotion. It almost brought this feeling of uncontrollable ecstasy. I remember the first time people explained this to me or explained sensations that are close to this or as vivid in nature. Sometime during the 18th century, around the time of the French Revolution, there's like a manifestation of romanticism in art, which is what Stenhall experienced. So in Western Europe, readers had swooned when they encountered the true voice of feeling in from Rousseau's novel La Nouvelle Eloise,
Have an easier
formerly
language.
known as Julie, or the new Eloise, and explored autonomy and authenticity as moral values. So this novel was well received across Western Europe as historian Robert I was trying to say Robert in French. Roberts Darnton argued that Julie was perhaps the biggest bestseller of the country, and publishers could not print copies fast enough, so they rented the book out by the day and at sometimes even by the hour. That's how popular this was because people were in awe of this. Fast forward to the 20th century, when people first experienced watching Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back for the first time. That was another sensation where people were fucking floored.
Cultural reset.
Y'all already know.
Y'all
already know.
That was a cultural peak of when people were describing symptoms of the Stendhal Syndrome. And for personally, one of those was also shared with amongst other people because it was part of our curriculum in high school, was a book by the author of Paulo Coelho's allegorical novel O Alquimista, which is both being profoundly influential to personally my life philosophies and the respective motifs. So both of those, Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back and O Alquimista, was a hero's journey to self-discovery and identity.
Man, sorry, I was in core English classes, so I did not get to read that book.
It's The Alchemist, yeah.
Oh, it's The Alchemist. I don't think I've ever actually read The Alchemist either. I've never read The Alchemist.
200-page read. It's barely good. It's so great, so enriching. It's definitely
might have to pick that bad boy up.
Yeah, call that an afternoon.
Call that afternoon, baby. Slap 200 pages in my eyes, and I'm good.
Delicious.
The personal anecdote that I would like to speak on is the piece that affected me the most. So here's some Paul, though. We're going to open up the bunker, get some Paul backstory. Paul
into Paul's
So,
Paul's room. Please ignore the 47 boxes of pizza. They are all full.
I just collect them.
Air pizza before
every
he goes
time
to
I
bed.
get
Let's go.
Every time I get resources, that's where they go. Just the pizza boy sends them out, and yeah, I think only probably Justin like remembers like my backstory as much. But for the people out there, I used to play the French horn from like middle school all throughout college, and I wasn't like bad at it. I was just I was indifferent at one time.
Do not let him undersell himself. Paul is a fantastic French horn and flugelhorn player.
And I just came back from touring across the country, and it had like a monumental impact on my admiration for music and also like my admiration for performance and my energy for it. So by the first time or the first year I was in college, I was performing the wind ensemble on my campus, and we were invited to play for like an international music festival held in LA, and it was going to be held in the Walt Disney Concert Hall in LA, which is crazy. That hall is immaculate. It's amazing. And for the concert, one of the songs on the it was awesome. It was really choice too. Yeah, I was 19 at the time. I was really young, and it was honestly like for everyone on the ensemble, even the director, it was crazy. It was such a inspiring thing.
It's like something that you could take advantage of from living in SoCal, you know?
Exactly. It was literally
like being able to even go to the Disney.
right. And I was thinking like if I was in Minnesota or like Indiana, I would never
God
God
forbid.
forbid I was in a bunker in Indiana.
Oh, yes.
I would never be blessed with the opportunity. So it was literally so choice, and it was international. So we had musicians from, France, from Japan, from Thailand. It was amazing. And for the concert, one of the songs in the repertoire was from the 19th century composer Richard Wagner. And this guy was composing during the Romantic era with a twist of modernism and a twist of dark facades and dark, just enigmatic mystery of death and decay and everything I love. So this guy was like my guy. He was my guy. It was one of the 75th pieces from his infamous opera Lohengrin. The story follows the people of the Duchy of Brabant, who are divided by quarrels of political infighting, and they were left under the rule of the region's pagan past and sought to subvert and prevailing monotheistic government in order to return to that, duchy pagan rule. Mysterious knight, sent by God and possessing superhuman charisma and fighting abilities. That's the opera part. That's the fictitious, the literal cinema in the opera. So this random Doctor Strange guy comes in, and he unites and strengthens the people, obviously, And he's like, hey, might as well hook up with some gals, some guys, gals, non-binary pals, baby. Let's go.
Tight.
And so this Nameless Knight, and that's a
Yeah,
very
baby.
important artifact. He tried to remain nameless and ambiguous and as vague as possible. Just no title, just the mysterious knight that likes to bang. And he felt a sense of duty to defend an innocent noblewoman named Elsa from the court's guardian Talrimund, and he falsely accused her of murdering her brother. And the knight imposes a condition on, protecting her. It was huge. Like, dude, it was mind-boggling. He was like, well, I don't like your boyfriend,
That's
so
a
I
big
think you killed your brother,
accusation.
dude. I believe you killed him. You killed him. I don't know how, but you killed him. We can't find him.
Like,
Everyone's like, everyone just shakes their head. They're like,
yeah, like,
I
it,
mean,
it sounds like you're reaching
possibly.
right now, but you sound convincing. So
yeah,
I
they're
believe
like, hey,
you.
he doesn't have a name. Hey, I believe so. But this guy,
you're
he was
so
a guy. He was
mysterious and nameless, so.
charismatic. He was loving in nature. Someone would be like, yo, I will be a cuck in this situation. You can fuck my wife. I don't care. I love you, dude. Please. The condition was people must follow him without knowing his identity.
No.
And we're like, how's that happen? I don't know. But anyways, so going back to the piece was performed from Lohengrin's second act during the opening scene of scene 4, when Elsa begins a procession to the cathedral to marry the Nameless Knight. We're going to call him like Medieval Doctor Strange. We'll say Medieval Doctor Strange guy.
Medieval Doctor Strange.
That's his name.
Perfect.
So the Duke, Talrimund, the Duke's guardian, known as Count Frederick von Toremund, accuses Elsa of murdering her brother to become the Duchess. So the Duke is not having that type of slander, and he banishes Toremund and his lady, Ortrud, Ortrud, from the court, where he solemnly
Bless you.
he solemnly listens to the party music booming from the church because Elsa's about to hook up with the aforementioned mysterious nameless Doctor Strange Knight.
In canon, it's just like hard bass
It's
being
literally-
played from like a cathedral.
It goes from cumbia to
Just
hard
like hard
bass.
techno.
It's just crazy. so Toremund, he then conspires against the knight by making yet another slanderous claim by accusing him of sorcery. Like, okay, which kind of it's obvious this
Naturally.
knight is comparable to medieval Doctor Strange, yet everyone seems like totally cool with that. They're like, yeah, he's a sorcerer, so what? I mean, he's cool. You're not cool, you're a sorcerer, get the fuck out of here.
That's kind of how the actual Doctor Strange weaseled himself into like hang out with the Avengers.
Literally,
Everyone was just like, he seems like a stand-up guy. We'll just keep hanging out with him.
he's like, he's a doctor, scientist, but also some spell casting, maybe.
He's got that mirror dimension. I fuck with that guy.
fuck with that.
I am Agamotto.
I am Dormammu. So during the beginning of the procession, the orchestra, in my case, this is going to be the wind ensemble because I was playing French horn at the time. So it begins with a delicate flute solo that establishes a motif of Alice's innocence. So the song then builds in intensity as new instruments are introduced as they respectively play a descending cadence representing Elsa and her newly accepted fate as the Duchess and wife of the mysterious nameless German god Doctor Strange Knight. So the composition then builds in tension as the lower brass section supports the majestic trumpet entrance, signaling the knight's entrance. As the ensemble embellishes on every chord progression, we listen to the development of the procession as tension rises in both the scene of the opera and the overlaying of instruments and musical motifs that Wagner introduces into the composition. And as the song anticipates a final resolve leading up to a key signature change, the orchestration and instrumentation begins to dilute in tension and highlight characters within the ensemble. Like it goes from the high winds to the brass, the lower brass, so there's tension building, and everyone in the room feels this tension. Every audience member, all 2,000 plus people in that little, not even little, it's pretty big, it's pretty absorbent. Everyone's feeling this tension rise and fall and rise and fall, and it's literally the feeling of anxiety. It's just this anxiety of what's going to happen. What is Talrimund going to do? And as a performer, I'm exuding these feelings of anxiety. I'm just like, fuck, like I know the story. I know it's going to end. I know because I practiced this piece for hours every single day for a whole semester. Yet it's giving me this overwhelming tightness in my chest. But when every chord kind of progresses and kind of resolves, kind of like presses up and kind of comes down. So as we listen to the development and all the motifs that come in, it it finally comes to the point of Talrimond and Ultrude lurking in the crowd in the opera. So, um, you know, they look pissed. They're gonna call her out. They're like, Elsa, bruh, you're hooking up with this sorcerer dude. We're gonna call you out. And
Bitch.
yeah, they're like, bitch. And musically, it's like when the key change happens, it's like, oh, gotcha. You thought you could get away with the marriage. Well, shame on you. If I don't know how German weddings go, but they're probably like, you know what? If anyone has something to say, speak your piece. And Talrimond was probably like, here's the card
So
facts.
you just kicks in the door.
Literally.
sword drawn. She's like,
Bitch, you thought. And
I want that. If I don't have that much drama at any prospective wedding that I have in my future life, then I am not having it. I'm restarting.
That ain't right.
if you don't got that drama, then you got to hit the Obama. So by this point, they're ready to pull up on Elsa, and they say, "Hey, your man didn't even reveal his name. Show me the Carfax." So our previous duel, this meaning Tormund and the Nameless Knight, the Doctor Strange guy, he defeated me in combat by this quote unquote knight, and it's invalid. And you're a fucking sorcerer, bruv. But the knight, being, Doctor Strange, he refused to reveal his identity, and everyone was absolutely floored at this point. Talrimond and Ortrude, they fell back. They're like, all right, dude, no support. You're calling the Spetnaz. We got no help. We got no homies here. So they fell back in the crowd. They're like, they fell back in. And Elsa was like, I guess that's over. That confrontation's done. I'm going to get married now and just bang my new husband. So, they try to intimidate her. They go into the crowd, try to find her, intimidate her. And this is the moment where the music is finally at its peak. We thought that the peak was going to be the key change, because that's where the tension was rising and the performers were kind of getting this energy and this push and pull. But then it resolves into this new key signature. And this is where everything is like, all right, it's a new flow to it of we're in the church, we're in the chapel now. What else could go wrong? And performance-wise, everyone's sweating, everyone's anxious. Dude,
Oh, they're sweating.
everyone is like, I feel in my pits. Like the audience is like, bruh, it's hot. These performers are like heaving, they're puffing, they're like, I mean, it takes a lot of air to blow a French horn, to blow anything. It's just a lot.
That cyclical breathing.
It's in there. So the lower brass section is having an ascending passage that fortifies Elsa's bravado by now contrasting the descending lines and motifs that were introduced into the piece in the beginning of Wagner's introduction. So this is where the French horn section, this is where we begin to soar over the ensemble with a mountainous force. And Wagner masterfully wrote the horn parts to completely shift the tone and pacing the piece by having us raise the tension with ascending lines. It's totally contrasting what everyone else is playing, and we're literally the only ones soaring and bringing this cadence to life. It's a nuanced procession towards tension and resolve, a constant push into dissonance with brief moments of resolve as we navigate the anxieties Elsa faces during the confrontation with Tormund and Ortrude at this point. And a familiar wave of passion begins to flow through every breath I take to play in Elsa's part of her procession. So the feeling became its sensation.
Good God.
The climax of the piece was coming soon, and I could feel the hairs in my beard start to prickle in ecstasy as the piece started to develop and started to open up. And as I looked up at the conductor, my director, to be sure that I was still in tempo and following the direction the flow he wanted for the piece, I realized where I was. I was sitting on stage with some of the best musicians I've come to know in the fucking Walt Disney Concert Hall. And that realization in itself was exhilarating. It's almost intoxicating. And without skipping a beat, I felt my body start to tremble. And from the copious amounts of air I was exerting into from my tiny body at the time, I was like really small. I was also shorter, so I was just like small. I was just heaving. I was like,
You were just 30% smaller than
40%. I was pretty small. I was just blowing up. And that realization of just, I was feeling just anxious. It's just this tension that was beyond the storyline, beyond physical inertia that I was putting out. It was crazy. It was breathtaking. I was like almost having an attack of where I couldn't catch my breath, but I needed to catch my breath so I could play, so I could continue the story and of Elsa's procession. And as I was sitting directly in front of like the largest tuba player I've ever had the honor of doinking out to and blacking out,
200% larger.
300%. Like we blacked out the night before, and it was literally just him being immovable, just a rock on my like hotel floor. I was like, well, this is life, I guess. But it was, but because there was like no surprise, or there's actually a surprise. There's no surprise to our composition and our role, but the Walt Disney Concert Hall surprises with the guests. So, nestled in the back of the all-wood concert hall, there lives 6,125 German-engineered pipes that construct a concert organ, and they tower up to 30 feet high in the concert hall. So, if that mesmerizes,
Top of the cell, it's the organ.
it's literally the organ, and it's kind of nestled in, but with the kind of the lighting design and everything, they kind of pronounced it as we were building tension, and we didn't expect it. The audience didn't expect it. It was literally a surprise for the festival that no one knew about but the director and the people that coordinated the events. No one knew about it. And this mesmerizing design of lights and aesthetics of the organ, if that didn't evoke a terrifying wonder of amazement with the monstrous tones that came out of the organ during the climax of Elsa's procession, then that hit definitely did. Because that sensation of being fully immersed in music and the tonality of the organs and the pipes, literally being scared shitless out of the vibrations that were felt in the room when the organ entered, that we literally no one knew about, was crazy. It just shifted me outside of my body, like I was like entering like Valhalla or something, and it was just,
I'm getting excited just hearing this story. Holy shit.
it was, dude, it was literally, it displaced me emotionally, and I like literally blacked. I don't remember how we finished that like set because it was the last song of the whole festival, and everyone was drenched in sweat. It wasn't hot or anything. It was just like we were all unanimously living this moment in connection of amazement and total passion of performance, and surprised that the organ literally was like a, not even, I'm not going to say angelic, because it was almost a looming force that came out of nowhere and just drop kicked us with this crazy tone of bass and mids and highs. It was almost like it took our head out of our body and just inserted it into a gerbil, and then shook the gerbil and threw it into the ocean, and then just like blew that ocean up with a volcano into space, into
Man,
a
that
void.
poor gerbil.
It
Didn't
was,
deserve any of that.
yeah, I felt so small in my role in her story, yet so relevant, like an atom. Like I was shrunken down to atomical level of existing in a bigger space that I didn't understand after that. And after that, there was a huge shift in my relationships, in my behavior. Like I couldn't get out of that sensation, and it was literally just, it was the weirdest thing that I literally cannot explain further than a total
You just
dissociation.
explained it very well.
Well, other than like the word disassociation, because that's literally what it is. Because I de-identified, I depersonalized, and I disassociated from that point on. And it wasn't like a magnificent moment. It was literally a shift of my spirit. Of like when I came back into reality, everyone that was around me felt the same shift, and they're just like, "Fuck, now what?" That's my story.
Wow. Just
I'm not sure if my applause is picking up, but I'm applauding.
Oh yeah, if I could erupt into applause with 1,000 hands, I fucking would.
Do a Skyrim
level. God, no, y'all gonna make me act out and spend $30 to replay Skyrim for the 6th time? Don't you fucking
Dog,
dare!
not even that. Spend $200
I
for
will.
PlayStation VR. Play that in VR. Catch arrows with shields. Let's go.
And so I am
That's
the
awesome.
Dovahkiin. Oh, Paul, that that description of that rapturous feeling of like performance and getting to that level of being out of your body when playing, like that probably is one of the best like descriptions of I would assume why musicians or any performers in any light perform for, you know, like why they continue to do it. Because like if one pulls out and looks at it like, okay, I'm gonna learn this instrument, that's cool. I'm gonna practice for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end. I'm gonna get together with all these people and practice over and over and over again, and I'm gonna get frustrated and annoyed and God knows what else will, you know, I'm gonna take time out of my life to do this thing, but it's for moments like that when you experience something so beyond yourself, and so not just like, you know, it's not just you doing the thing, it's like a bunch of people doing the thing all together, and that thing happens to be like something that is almost otherworldly in how it goes about and like takes you over. And I mean, like, is this what people feel like when they're at like Grateful Dead concerts? Is that why people keep is
I
that
can only imagine, man.
Literally.
is that why people
They're just like, take me away. I'm gonna do this trip, and the music's okay. Let's
is that
leave
why,
the head.
is that why,
Carrie, I know Carrie Fisher passed out in front of a speaker at a
oh my
Grateful Dead concert, like for sure.
Probably
is an
from the
experience that
coke
has
and
to be
copious
had
amount
at
of
That
drugs,
might-
though.
Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. But we will talk about your drug habits
Rest in peace.
Oh
on this
yeah,
podcast.
she was a
And
rock
rest in
star.
energy.
Yeah.
We're not slandering. It's definitely a copious feeling. It's just exhilarating to experience art and to be so, like you said, it's a rapturing feeling, and it's just it. Even though the feeling is displacing, I remember having ties to that feeling beforehand when it was drum corps and it was performing in front of like a, um, it was being broadcasted in theaters like across the world at that time, and that moment of getting to the last hit and understanding everything it took to get to that point and all the people and all the memories from 40 to 50 years of drum corps history of people performing in that stadium, in the Lucas Oil Stadium, and just being surrounded by people that love art and just are passionate about hearing their face get blown off. I was just like, damn, that's real, son. That's real.
My goodness, that if that doesn't highlight the pertinence of the Stendhal Syndrome, or like this thing that happens, like I don't know what is.
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, do you guys believe that there's probably an unhealthy point? Like, I mean, my experience was weird and definitely unhealthy. It definitely did branch off with more mental. I guess it left me handicapped after the experience. And do you believe that this, since it is a syndrome and it is could be a traumatizing experience for people that don't understand it, do you believe that with bringing an understanding to the syndrome, it would be better for people?
I think it's more of an elective than like required reading, but it certainly is interesting, and I think that a lot of people should be educated on the way that some people react to just experiences and really powerful moments in their lives.
I agree. Anyone should get help if they feel like they're addicted to doing something. And also if something made them feel sad, they should get help. I don't know if it's like a necessary education.
No, absolutely. Like, definitely agree with the elective part, and definitely like side reading. Yet, if understandable, if someone does experience something similar to the Stendhal syndrome, that is definitely concerning, and I feel like in need of navigation.
And
somewhat.
I could argue that the experience of the symptoms that come along with the syndrome don't have to have an inherently negative context. Like, well, one could probably be said, and I'm sure that these types of feelings can be evoked from uh, all kinds of media, but I'm sure in large concerts, you know, the reason people go to these huge, let's just at the concert uh,
Mm.
that you described, but also I'm sure that people have experienced the same feeling from watching like Coldplay live. You know, someone loves something so much, or from watching One Direction, or from watching any group that someone loves so much that they get these overwhelming feelings. I mean,
I think we
uh,
might confuse that with infatuation.
Yes, that's the confusing part where it's like, am I enjoying this Coldplay concert? Bro, if we went from Grateful Dead to Coldplay, let's talk about that for a
Hearing
little
some
bit.
clocks.
The world's favorite band.
yeah, the whole favorite band.
I don't doubt
Here's
it.
some X and
I'm
Y.
just saying, like, experience. I'm saying experience wise at a concert. I'm not gonna pick a Coldplay concert over a I'm going
Yeah.
blank on artists
Your
right now.
options are
I'm gonna
Coldplay,
say
Grateful Dead, or One
Yeah,
Direction.
and One Direction.
exactly.
No,
It's
I
like
mean, like,
what's Z
Can
gonna
I
be?
buy a
One Direction
vowel?
slaps. I mean,
I could
definitely.
put it into a more personal experience for Jason and I. Jason and I went to see well, the very first time, Jason, that you and I saw Death Cab for Cutie.
Mm.
I remember when they played what Sarah said. Like, that's a song that already, if I listen to what Sarah said in any light, will get me into a very emotional place, just because it's a sad as shit song, but it's a very emotionally moving song, and the context of the lyrics and the piano work and just how everything builds and swells to the end with, like, so who's gonna watch you die, like, being said over and over again, like, being able to see that live for the first time. I mean, looking back on that, I could say I felt some kind of movement from that, and not as an infatuation to the artist, but literally to the piece itself, the music being played. Um, that definitely had an impact on me at some point, uh, especially afterwards. Like, just going home from that concert, I was just like, wow, that kind of fucked me up.
Right,
Like,
and
You just floated home.
it seems like it's almost hypnotic. It was absolutely shifting. Like, yeah, exactly. Floating, this floating feeling, this hypnosis that you're trapped in, where it's almost like mesmerizing. Wow, where am I? Look, woo! I'm somewhere
At a
else,
Death Cab for
baby.
Cutie concert.
Ah,
at a Death Cab for Cutie
we're in the
concert.
we gotta head back to the
That's what
bunker. I mean,
happens
we
when
gotta
you
get out of
die.
this death cab.
You
You see
you
the
end up in
light.
Take this death cab to the bunker,
You
baby.
You see
walk
the-
towards the light. Where am I? You're at a Death Cab for Cutie concert.
that sounds like a fantastic
Right,
You're
place to
like,
be.
all right.
If that would not be the
I
worst. Like, if
don't doubt
if
it.
my lineup, okay, so here we go. My ideal lineup for if I kick the bucket and I wake up and someone is like, you're at a concert, and they told me that Death Cab for Cutie is headlining, and then Golgo Bordello was opening. I think I would just get fucking down.
Huh.
And
All
then
right.
and I'd be like, okay, so I'm gonna party and then I'm gonna cry, and then I don't know, we'll just cap the night with like U2 or something, just because I want to see him at least once. I may as well see him in the afterlife. Like,
Here's some Vertigo.
Oh yeah, I mean, I
Hello,
don't doubt.
hello.
I don't doubt their YouTube
I'll hear
slap in a live performance.
elevation at least once live.
A lot
Like,
of woos.
Yeah. lots of that was definitely Bono's woo phase.
He was a woo girl.
Man, I would see I would definitely see probably Miles Davis because he was probably on coke a
Just
lot, so he's probably a wild
slapping, dude.
performer. He's just slapping it, him and the bird. Mostly jazz performances because I hear some shit went down
Ah.
during jazz concerts. Some wild shit, like dude, like literally the story from Whiplash where like someone threw a cymbal at another guy's head and another guy got shot. Like people
Yeah.
were fighting
Jazz
in
is
this
I know I
club.
shouldn't
And it was
want
just
it, but I
jazz
want
was-
the chaos more.
Yeah, it's so chaotic because imagine that ragtime. Oh man, we introduced some free jazz to that, and it's just the chaos. It's just a flame
Friends, and
for
then
the
someone comes in and
nitros
they're like, "You
that's
stole my
going
song."
into the
He's
car.
like, "This is my song first," and he's like, "That's my girlfriend," and then someone gets
It-
shot, and everyone's throwing drugs.
He's like,
I need it.
I'm gonna diminish this ninth and flat it. It's not your song anymore, boy. He's like, it's not your song now.
Thank you very much, everybody, for sharing your experiences or your thoughts on Stendhal Syndrome. I think this is no one is safe. I think this is literally something that everyone can either subconsciously or consciously feel at some point in their life, and it's so engaging to hear that it can come in so many different ways from so many different mediums, especially. Thank you to everybody for listening along on Spotify or Overcast or any of the other wonderful mediums in which you can hear this podcast. We'll be coming at you next week with another topic. Stick around to find out. I know our one half drunk listener in South Korea is going to be there, so I hope you are
Hey,
too.
buddy.
Buddy.
Miss you.
And make sure you do not become one of the 250 deaths that Pokemon Go has apparently contributed to.
Thank God
Still
we're
going
past
on.
the worst.
Yeah, thank you
Oh,
again.
is the
I have-
virus.
Pokemon Go is the act. That's when things really started going downhill. Harambe and Pokemon Go happened the same year. Just remember that. Thank
Oh no!
you. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you're listening to this.
Thank you for listening.
I have been your host for the evening, Justin. You can find me if you light 3 candles and hold up a piece of a fern, one of those ferns that if you touch them, they shrivel up because they're shy. Hold that up to the western wind, and you will hear my name.
I'm doing
on
it right now.
And to my left,
Hey, I've been Jason. Thanks for listening to me. Be a little sleepy. I'm down to sleep some more. Talk some more later, another time. Find me on Twitter at Kessel_rum. To my left, digitally.
Hey, it's Paul. Thanks for listening to my stories and my doinks. You can find me at Paul Salsa Bar on Twitter, and that's it. Also, I know we're going through a tough time. If you're going through a tough time, there are always resources out there. You could reach out to a friend, family member. You could reach out online to BetterHelp, and they have professional counseling. Hope for the Day has professional counselors and resources, talk space, or if things are so overwhelming that you feel like there's no one else to talk to, always reach the U.S. National Suicide Hotline. That is 1-800-273-8255. Thank you, guys. And to my left,
Really feel like there's no one to talk to, you could just hit me up at courtesy of Chrissy on like anything. Gmail, AOL, Instagram. You know. Just talk to me.
bring it up the AOL again.
Anyways.
Damn.
heck yeah.
AOL.
We are at Life Lore Podcast on Twitter. We are Life Lore Podcast on Instagram, and you can reach us at lifeandlore@protonmail.com. Jason literally stares at the feed, ready for someone to contact
I'm
us
waiting.
at a moment's
9
notice.
to 5 for this job.
He has not
people.
slept for the past 2 years.
I don't need it.
He doesn't need it. This is a fresh Jason, and whenever they get tired, we just kill them and make a new clone. So,
Ethics.
good night to our one half-drunk listener in South Korea.
Love you as
we'll
always.
See you all next week. Good night to Jason number 18, and good night to everybody else.
It's been an honor to serve.
Man. I was playing this. I'm letting the Seinfeld theme play out.
Oh no! But
No one can hear it from me.
I know, I'm sure Paul played really fun.